Alright, folks. Brother D here. Your Life Applications Officer, Cruise for Christ. Let me get my little notes here. I'm not going to hold you long at all, I promise. Just a little update what's going on with me. First off, I ran into a woman, it looked like a woman, who commented on one of my videos about the MEV translation. It's over there. And I feel kind of bad because I don't mean to lead people astray. So this is like a disclaimer. I apologize if I've been like putting all these translations on a pedestal, and then as I read them and compare them, I get angry because of the differences between them. Because to me, Bible shouldn't be that different. Like if I was to give one of my kids, like my kids don't read the Bible like I do. Now my stepson asked me for his translation that I got him years ago. And I sent him another one. He lost it, or it never got to him in the mail. I talked to him on the phone. He says he never got it. But I took it and mailed it to him, and it was the New Life version, not to get it lost or confused with the New Living Translation. The New Life version is majority text. Okay. New Testament. But he wanted his old Bible. That was the Bible that me and my ex-wife bought him years ago. We happened to be in a Christian bookstore. He was young back then. He was like in high school or middle school. And we bought him this Bible because it was easy to read. And he really, really enjoyed it. He was reading it and learning from it. And when me and my wife split up, he left his Bible somewhere, and I ended up with it. It ended up getting moved with my stuff. When I moved my stuff from place to place, his Bible got mixed in with my stuff. And so I had it here. No. I had it somewhere else. And I started reading from it, and I started enjoying it. And I even sent him a note, a text or something, telling him how much I was enjoying his Bible and that I had it. And then I think I gave it to him. I think I sent it to him or gave it to him. And he lost it. And then I got a new one. I got a really nice one. It was a nice beige leather Bible with designs on it, textures on it and stuff. Very nice Bible. It was brand new, and right after I bought it, he called me on the phone. We were talking, and he said he didn't have his Bible. So I said, you know what, I'll give you one. I says I have a new one. I says I have this one, and I have a paperback. And I still have my paperback over there. I says, what I'll do, this one that I just got, I'll mail it to you. It's got my name in it, if you don't mind. You can scratch out my name out of the beginning of it. I'll give it to you. It's brand spanking new. I just opened it a few days ago. He said, yeah, I'll take it. So I sent it to him. Now he's saying he doesn't have it. I don't know what happened. Because I called him and I told him, I says, I called you and asked you if you got the Bible. And you said, yeah. He says, oh, I never got it. Okay. But anyway, I have my New Life version over there. I told him I'll buy him another one. I told him I'd buy him another one, but I ain't going to buy him another one anytime soon. It's going to be a while. But just imagine. I could take that New Life version and I can show him in that Bible. This right here is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. That's wrong. This is coming from the wrong text. And I could do that. And I can do the same thing with my NASB. Nice Bible. But I can show you where there's places where it does not agree with all the basic texts out there. It doesn't agree. Okay? Now the CSB, which is what I'm reading through right now. Two things I'm doing this week is I'm reading through this lovely Life Plan Bible by John Hagee. I'm reading through here. I'm going through the navigation. This is what I mean when I talk about navigation. Is this Bible has a treasure of lessons in it. You know, lessons about who God is, lessons about the Bible itself, lessons about angels, lessons about you know, Christian behaviors and all this kind of stuff. It has a ton compared to the study guide in my open Bible. But because this Bible is the last Bible I got, this Bible's brand new basically. This one here, it's been in my bookshelf for years, and I've been promising to get down to the study guide and, well, the lessons in here. I never got down to it. So what I'm doing right now, what I'm going to be doing throughout the month of May, is I'm going to be reading this Bible, and, you know, because of the lessons. This is New King James. I'm going to be reading this because of the lessons. I'm also going to be reading my CSB. I'm going to be reading through it. Now, between the CSB and NASB and the Amplified Bible, the CSB is more, the CSB has more in common with the New King James. The CSB has more in common with the New King James. And so, therefore, I don't have the big disagreements with it when I come across certain passages as I do with the New American Standard. But I've listened to a bunch of people today. Now, again, I could take that New Life version, which is my stepson's favorite text. It's majority text, but a lot of places in it are translated like my NASB. And the NASB is supposed to be the most literal translation out there. If it is the most literal translation out there, then you would be right when you say the King James Bible is a heretic Bible. Because there are so many places where it differs away from the traditional text. Whereas my CSB Yes, there's verses missing like any other modern translation, and there's words missing, but the variants in the Bible are equal within the limits of being CSB. They're equal to what's in this New King James. They're equal to what's in my MEV and my King James. Okay. And I can show you, the difference in my New Life Version. I can show you the difference in my NASB. I could show you some things that I feel are wrong with the Net Bible. But I want to say to those that have been watching me, they might be a little flustered with me because I have been the same Bibles that I put on a pedestal one moment, give it a couple videos, and I'm putting them down like crazy. Everything I said about the MEV, I kind of went ape on the MEV earlier this week. I kind of went ape on it. And last week. But I've listened to some people this week to get to it. I listened to some people this week. And I just got done listening to this one Baptist minister who reads the MEV. I also looked at Tim Friss's review of the old MEV, the 2014 edition. And I've seen the changes where they fix things in the 2024 edition. And I listened to Tim Friss again today, watched a video that I watched before more than once. And I also went to Facebook. And on Facebook there's a MEV Facebook channel. And I went there. I'm a member of the channel. And I talked about some things in the MEV. I talked about them and I posted them on the channel. And some of the people there are a little offended because they think the MEV is perfect, especially the 2024 edition. They think it's perfect. There's no criticism for it. My problem, again, is that the MEV claims to be completely drifting off of the King James. It's claiming that the King James is a base manuscript. It's claiming that it's a King James update. But yet, my New King James is still more of an update and still more true to the King James than that MEV is. But the good news is, as long as what I've been learning on YouTube this week and what I learned today, it's not quite 12 o'clock yet, what I learned today is that, first of all, if you read from the standard text, and you really read from the standard text, you can read any other Bible you want to. As long as you're reading, as long as I'm reading from the standard text, I can read and the thing about Tim Friss and Tim Nichols, Tim Wildsmith, and different ones, Dwayne Green, different ones. They all know what the standard text says. They're not like some of you to come to my channel. You're not really reading your Bible. You are just... I could be wrong. I don't want to misjudge anybody, but I take it that some of the people that come to my channel aren't really reading their Bibles. They are reading passages. They're reading lessons, devotionals. They're reading whatever their pastor in church tells them. Are you reading these Bibles at home? Are you reading the Old Testament? Are you reading, and the truth is, also, if you don't ever compare see, years ago, I didn't really compare. When I was an NIV freak, I didn't compare. I didn't compare the NIV to, my New King James until later. I didn't until around the time I got divorced. I didn't really start to compare these translations. I didn't really compare the NIV to the New King James or King James until I got up in church one time and got embarrassed. Because I'm reading something out of the NIV and I read something that's like, hold on, brother. Hold up, brother. What did you say? And I'm like, well, brother, it would be different than the King James because this is a modern translation. He's like, you can be as modern as you want to be, brother. You said something that ain't in Scripture. And you left out a whole lot of Scripture. You skipped the whole verse, brother. And then when you went to the last verse that you read, that ain't what it says. And I was like, I can't take this NIV to church with me, man. It's embarrassing me. People got to the point where it's like, I walk into that big NIV, they're like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Get out the popcorn, man. It's going to be a good show. Thank God I graduated from the Living Bible. Oh, my God. My uncle hated that Living Bible. But I tell you what, that Living Bible had more in common with the King James than the NIV, the NLT, which that's what the Living Bible, that's what the Living Bible is. The New Living Translation is derived from the old Living Bible. But that old Living Bible makes the NLT look like an abomination, I'm telling you. And how dare me to really hate on the modern translations when I got saved off that Living Bible. That Living Bible, I was reading the Bible while other young people my age was out there practicing fornication and getting girls pregnant. I was at home under my uncle. He's got out his King James. I got my Living Bible. We're talking Scripture. He was so happy when I finally grabbed my mother's King James. It was a Jerry Falwell King James or something. Had words explained in there and everything. And one thing I learned about the King James as soon as I opened up her study Bible was that, I forget what the name of the study Bible was. Somebody gave it back to me. And that was another one where I took and put my last name on the pages. You know how like I put my last name right across here. Crews. And people hate it when I did that. I'm about to do it again. I might do it. I got some white page Bibles over there. A King James one and a New King James one. They're white pages. I might do that with them, But the thing is, I lost my train of thought. My uncle and I sat down and we read the Bible together, and when I finally pulled out one of my mother's old King James Bibles, it was fairly new, because her being disabled in that, she didn't read the Bible anymore like she used to when she first got saved. She was so busy trying to keep up with me and get me to keep up with her, and that she didn't really read the way she should. But she had these materials. My mom had a whole library of stuff, She had John Hagee stuff too. She didn't have this, but she had some other John Hagee stuff. She had John Hagee books and stuff, Pat Robertson, Billy Graham. She had, all the top authors out there. She had their books and stuff. And she had study Bibles and stuff like that too. But this Bible, one of the first Bibles, and I put my own name in there and everything. This Bible, it was basically brand new. She never really used it. It didn't have a scratch on it. Now all this stuff was mine because she died, but that was my very first King James Bible. And then, like I said, I went to the Open Bible after that. And my uncle was so glad that he could actually teach me how to read the King James Bible. I still don't know how to read the King James Bible. I don't read the King James Bible. Never did. I just liked that Bible because it had so many notes in it. And it also explained hard to understand archaic words and stuff like that. And I really loved how it would like break down the syllables. Like if you say Hannah, or you say Judas, or you say any name, it would break it down into syllables so you could understand the exact pronunciation. This is very common in King James Bible. My New King James doesn't do it, and none of these other translations does that. But the King James still does that. My KJV does that. It'll take any name of any person and break it down. Like any name, it'll break it down so you know how to pronounce it. Okay? Only the King James Bible does that. And the first study Bible I had, which was my mom's, it was a brand new Bible that she got right before she died, and she never really used it. She just peeked at it a little bit. When I started handling it, it was still brand new. And so I put my name in there and everything, and I began to learn. But to this day, I've never been a King James reader. I've never been King James only. I've never been, in love with the King James and the way it explains things, or I've never been. I went from the Living Bible to the King James to the NIV. From the NIV to the New King James. And the New Century Version. And then the NLT. I left the NLT and went back to the New King James. Okay? Yeah. So, what happened, and so I apologize if I've been making anybody feel a little bit hurt by what I've said. But what I've learned this week is that I can read any of these modern translations I want, as long as I know what the standard says, because I'm a standard person. Okay? It's still going to bother me, though, because I don't understand where you find permission to be a Bible, to call yourself a Bible. Again, KJV onlyist people are right when they say, is Judah unruly against God, or did Judah walk with God? And when I was on the MEV thing today, I told this guy, he left a comment on one of my my MEV thing on Facebook. He left a comment under one of the things I mentioned, because I mentioned 2 Samuel chapter 11. You know, Bathsheba and David. He said, oh, well, that's a Hebrew issue. The New American Standard does the same thing. Sir, see, this takes me back to Westcott and Hort in the beginning of the 1900s, because that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So, because the New American Standard failed 2 Samuel chapter 11, I shouldn't feel that other Bibles like my MEV, which is claiming to be a Masoretic text, Textus Receptus type of Bible, following the tradition of the King James. Okay? But yet in the King James and the New King James, it's fixed. 2 Samuel 11 is fixed. We understand that when David was looking at Bathsheba on the roof, she was cleansing herself from her purification, from her menstrual impurification. She's purifying herself. Okay? Then David slept with her. Then she returned home. Whereas in my MEV, New American Standard, Amplified, she slept with David, then she purified herself. Purified herself from what? That's not a purification. That's called taking a bath after sex. And my stepson's Bible over there, New Life Version, this opened up a can of worms, because when I saw that, and I saw that the MEV had it wrong, I started looking at every Bible I have. I looked at all of them. The CSB seemed like it tried to catch itself. Smell like somebody's house is on fire. Hold on a second. It's my incense. You know. That's why I don't burn them if I'm not home. But the one already burned out and the one that's still burning, it came to a place in it where there's no scent. You're just burning the wood, so it smells like something's on fire. But I love incense, but I ain't trying to get into witchcraft. God. Smell like cigarettes in here, you know. Where's the scent? It's supposed to smell like whatever the scent is. It smells like cigarettes. But what was I saying? The CSB got it right. At least it sounds like it, trying to get you to understand that the purification happened before she slept with David. Even though it says, you know, like the New King James says, for, and David slept with her for. That F-O-R is very important. For she was purified from her impurification. Whereas in the MEV, there's a period, capital when she was purified from her purification or from her impurification, she returned home. That's what the MEV says. New American Standard says the same exact thing. Amplified says that. And although the Amplified says it a little bit. The Amplified also seems like it's trying to, it realizes there's a mistake there and it's trying to fix it, but it's too late. It's like, how do you do that in how do you put that in writing? But in the Amplified, David sent messengers and took her. When she came to him, he lay with her, and when she was purified from her uncleanness, she returned to her house. Okay. Now this guy on Facebook tried to tell me today that that's a Hebrew error or something like that. That's with the Hebrew or whatever. There's a lot of things going on with the Hebrew, and this is for your learning. There's a lot of things that are going on with the Hebrew that the King James and the New King James fixed that nobody else fixed. They fixed that. New King James, I told you what the New King James is. King James is the same exact thing. Okay? Now, Bibles that are older than the King James, like the Geneva and the Young's Literal Translation, they put it in brackets to let you know. It's kind of dumb. Like, oops, we forgot to say, we forgot to talk about her purification. We'll put it in here. It's weird. It's really weird. It's really weird. But same thing with 2 Samuel 21:19. King James, New King James fixed it. Whether it was a problem with the manuscripts, which I'm having a hard time with that, or whether it was a problem with the text, they fixed it. And most of y'all would rather read a Bible where things aren't fixed and things don't make sense and call that literal. Oh, well, that's the literal Greek. That's the literal Hebrew. Yeah, but it don't make sense. I know, but it's the literal Hebrew. It's the literal Greek. Well, but dude, it doesn't even make sense that way. The way it's written, it don't make sense. I know, but dude, it's the original Hebrew. It's the original Greek. Our Bibles don't even have to make sense. What I love about the New King James is, to me, it's very literal. But at the same time, it makes sense. It makes more sense than my New American Standard. In certain places, it makes more sense than it's Amplified. And it makes more sense in my MEV. And of course, it makes more sense in the New King James because, it makes more sense in the King James because there's no archaic words. They're words that, the New King James is still modern compared to the King James. But I apologize again if I made you feel, anybody that's watching my channel, if I made you feel like I can't make up my mind and I'm just fussing. I have a hate relationship with every Bible in my house. Well, you got to understand. Before, when I went to the New King James, when I left, when I went back to the New King James just a few years ago, like right after my divorce, I went back to the New King James. And the New King James became my thing. When I went and bought that Thompson chain over there, and I bought it in the New King James. The New King James was it for me. When I bought my Nelson Complete KJV Study Bible, I bought it in the New King James. That was it. I was done with every translation, including the New Century Version, which is one of my all-time favorites. It still is. I got one over there. I got two of them over there. That Bible's out of print. They don't make that no more. But the New Century Version was one of my favorites. While I fell in love with the New King James and decided the New King James was my main Bible. Also, I had the Holman Christian Standard Bible. I lost it somewhere. And the New Living Translation. I had that. But I stopped reading from the New Living Translation when we stopped doing Promise Keepers. Remember Promise Keepers? I bought the New Living Translation from a purchase tent at Promise Keepers. That's where I bought that Bible from. And I fell in love with that Bible. And because I bought it from Promise Keepers, it was the Bible that I carried the Promise Keepers. And a lot of people were impressed that I read from it at some of my Promise Keepers meetings, because I became a Key Man Ambassador, which means that I led local groups. Like here in the Pittsburgh division and the Westmoreland County division, I led groups. I led groups out of my own church. And those that didn't have a group, they could come to my church. And I finally was able to get my pastor to endorse that. He never went to Promise Keepers. He didn't think it was necessary. But he allowed me to finally, after a lot of begging, start a Promise Keepers chapter in our church. And he was really proud of me for doing that. And he started coming and getting involved himself. And that NLT, that New Living Translation, I had a little personal size brown one. The print was real small, but it was called Every Man's Bible, and that was my baby. And I lost that somewhere too. I tell you what, if that Bible was in my bookshelf right now, I'd be reading from it, just because of the personal size and all the notes in there and articles and stuff like that. It wasn't really an annotated Bible that much. It was more articles and footnotes. It was a footnoted Bible. And I don't mean like footnotes, like translation footnotes and footnotes for Hebrew and Greek. I'm talking about it was footnoted with all kinds of devotional notes, as well as a lot of articles. And I just loved that Bible. And if I had one right now, I'd probably be reading through the NLT because I love that study Bible so much. It was a personal size, the cutest. I hate to say the word cute because I'm a man, I ain't gay, but this is the cutest Bible I ever had. This Bible was cute. You want to hear a man say cute? That Bible was so cute. Nice little brown, had a nice leather on it. It was small. It was about the size of that New Life version over there, but it was actual leather Bible, and it was it was small, nice brown, the leather on it. You know what I mean? Wherever that Bible's at right now, it's handling wear and tear easily because it had good leather on it. And I bought it at a purchase tent in one of these Promise Keepers events. And it only cost me back then, I think it cost me like $25 or something. But it's a nice Bible. Nice Bible. Nice Bible. If I had a Bible like that, I'd be reading it. Now this Bible over here, I got this later because I lost that Bible. That NLT that's in the bookshelf over there, that Recovery Bible. I got that later. I saw that was right before Password. Yeah, I got that from Password. Password Christian Bookstore. That's how old that Bible is. Before Password Christian Bookstore went out of business, that was one of the last things I bought was that Recovery Bible. Because even though I was New King James, I was still trying to figure out whether am I New King James or am I NLT. Well, I recently, when I moved back here to Pittsburgh, I happened to be reading through one day and found that scripture in Matthew 5:6. Matthew 5:6. Matthew 5:6. Okay? Don't forget it. Matthew 5:6. He that hungers and thirsts for justice shall be filled. And I says, does it say justice? So I got out my New King James and looked it up and compared it with other translations. I even compared it with the NCV version over there. That's a paraphrase. It's the same kind of setup as in New Living Translations. And I looked at that and I said, why does the NLT say it like this? And that's when I began to get scared of it. Like, why would you mess with that? Everybody knows that 5:6 of Matthew is talking about being right with God, being in right standing with God. How do you translate that to justice? There's also places in Daniel where it has these run-on verses. Now, I don't know if the new version, this is like the first NLT that came out. This Bible goes way back. I don't know if this Bible over here is still doing it. I don't think it does. But I remember the first NLT. It had run-on verses. Like in Daniel, there were verses where they kind of just like, you know how you do like, okay, you put a comma, you put 16, 17, 18. There was a place in Daniel where instead of separating the verses, it kind of just like said 16, 17, 18 or something like that. And it put one verse there to cover 16, 17, and 18. And that was another thing that was like, you know, to make the book of Daniel, you know, and then I'm looking at that and I'm looking in the New King James and I'm looking at that same chapter in Daniel. There's 3 verses there. You took 3 verses and turned them into one. Now, I don't know if they're still doing that, but they did that in the first NLT, okay? But in closing, I was listening to Anabaptist. He used to be called Biovocational, but he really blessed me today. he pulled out a King James and a New King James and an MEV. And he said, these are my 3 Bibles. And let me explain to you why I read from these 3 Bibles. Him looking at an old video from Tim Friss, and him comparing verses. The argument I had with the guy on Facebook. All these things have blessed me today. To go back to my original praise of the MEV. I still love the MEV, and I still think, but what Anabaptist theology his channel showed me today, or yesterday actually now, was that you treat the modern English version, because he reads, like me, from the King James and the New King James. He said you treat the modern version like you treat the modern English version, that's what it's called. Modern English version. You treat the modern English version. Tim Friss said this too. You treat it like a modern version. A modern version that comes from the Texas Receptus. That's what it is. You don't, Anabaptist theology, whatever his name is, whatever the pastor's name is, he said, you're going to read this MEV and you're going to read it like you read your NASB or your CSB or one of them. And he said, I have a modern version within the vernacular of the spirit of the King James and the Texas Receptus. And when I looked at it that way, then I realized I still love the MEV. Even though I'm kind of mad at it that some things are like renderings of the CSB, not CSB, the NASB. Okay, I'm mad, I'm hot about that. But if I look at it the way Anabaptist theology, then I'm back to loving my MEV the way I loved it when it first got updated. He said, read the MEV like you read a modern translation that you trust. And I can do. What really made me do this video is the fact that I went to this one channel. It's sitting back here in the queue. I went to this one channel and it said, the KJV. He was talking about his favorite Bible translations and that there was 5 of them. He said, number 1, I like the KJV, but the problem with the KJV is the KJV comes from, how do you put it? Outdated manuscripts. James White didn't tell you that. And then he said, I'm not going to get into it, but go to James White, KJV only controversy. But he loves the King James. Okay, I don't think James White told you that, he better not have told you that the King James comes from outdated manuscripts. Here we go again. It's going to take me a minute. Manuscripts aren't made that way, sir. If the King James comes from any manuscript at all, it is the Bible. Okay? And if I sit down my King James next to an NLT or an Amplified or a New American Standard, and by the way, about the NLT, I compared it with other modern translations. The NLT agrees also with the New King James that I'm pretty sure that Judah walked with God, not that Judah was unruly with God. It also kind of clarifies, let me see something here. I think that the NLT does better on the Hebrew. I think this NLT does a better job on the Hebrew. Now this was the last, this goes back into the 90s. This is the last New Living Translation I got. Okay, because I lost my lovely little personal size leather one I had. But I think like in here, if I go to, let's say, I think the Hebrew in here is better. I think the Hebrew is better than the New Testament, I think. But if I go in here, if I go to 2 Samuel chapter 11, I think they've done a better, I think they, let me see. Let me look at it. He completed. Then David sent for her, and when she came to the place, he slept with her. Then it says she had, and it's in parentheses, she had just completed, I think this CSB says the same thing. She had just completed the purification rites after having her menstrual period. Okay? Then she returned home. So this is basically saying that right before David slept with her was her purification. Okay? We can go to 2 Samuel. I don't know if they got 2 Samuel 21:19 in here fixed or not. I think they do. Let me see here. My light is bothering my eyes. This printing ain't all that big. Okay, where are you? Right here. Yeah, brother of Goliath. 2 Samuel 21:19 is fixed in here. Okay? So, the Hebrew is better in this NLT. Okay? Than in the other modern translations. It's the New Testament we got to worry about, because as soon as you open up to the book of Matthew, the NLT then left the text and left the manuscript. Okay? Now, in the new version, the one that they just updated to, they have a footnote there that says, or righteousness. But why would you put justice in the text? And put, that's wrong. To me, this could have been a good Bible. And that just wasted it. These Bibles are not books, they're Bibles. You can't just say what you want to say or what makes it easier for you. These Bibles are not books, they're Bibles. Okay? If I turn on my phone, whether it be Waze or whether it be Google Maps, and I say, I want to get to Altoona from here. You're not going to send me the opposite direction. You're not going to send me to McKeesport. No, well, actually, you got to go through past McKeesport. No, wait, let me think. You actually do go towards McKeesport to get to Altoona. You go past McKee. No. Wait. No, you're going opposite direction. You are going, no, you do have to pass Elizabeth, yeah. Okay? But if I put on my phone and I say I want to go to McKeesport, we're not going to stop in Elizabeth. Oh, I'm sorry. If I want to go to Altoona, we're not going to stop and cut it short and stop in Elizabeth or McKeesport. We got almost 2 hours to go. Okay? If you say Uniontown, you come close. Okay? But you got to go all the way down 22 or 30 east to get there. If you take me to 51 west, or you take me to 19, that's a mistranslation. See what I'm saying? Now you say, well, it's all trying to get to El Tuna. It does. No. What the Bible says, it should say. Okay? It should say. Now maybe there are places, and I really believe this with all my heart. I believe that our modern texts, they try to put in every Bible themselves into the Bible, instead of just making the Bible easier to read and updating what needs to be updated. Why did the NASB and the CSB go from dwelling places in, I think the CSB went there too. Why did they go from dwelling places to rooms? You do understand in St. John chapter 14, you do understand that when it says my Father's house, God don't live in a house. That's a figure of speech. That's poetry. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. The old New American Standard had it right. Why did they change it to in my Father's house there are many rooms? The CSB does it too. I think the Amplified left it, and it comes from the Lockman Foundation, just like the NASB, but I think the Amplified keeps it at dwelling places. My MEV, dwelling places. Why did the New American Standard, when it already said dwelling places, which is what it is in Greek, why did it change that to rooms? That don't make sense to me. Why do these Bibles do that? Like, where is your relationship with God at? I mean, when they asked Tim Frisk, aren't a lot of these modern Bibles done by the secular non-Christian people? I'm wondering if that's what really went on. Now here it says, do not let your heart be troubled. Believe confidently in God and trust in Him. Have faith, hold on to, rely on, keep going, and believe also in me. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. Now some might say, well, that don't make sense. Yeah, it does. Because you weren't content when the New King James said mansions. So therefore, in my Father's house are many dwelling places is what it says in the Greek. Worry about what it actually says and not worry about trying to make it more understandable, because God doesn't have a house, number one. But when you say in my Father's house are many mansions or many dwelling places, then you understand, does God really have a house? Probably not, being it says it that way. But you sitting there saying in my Father's house are many rooms, that means that God actually has a house with many rooms. How are we supposed to fit all these people that got saved in this big house with these rooms in it? That's not what it's saying. But see, I'm done. Thank you for watching. 100 minutes is enough. Or 50, 60 minutes is enough. Talk to you soon with more.